It's about to get effing cool.
Hey everybody, welcome to the EFNpod podcast. This is Tyler MC with Toku Chris, and today we have the pleasure of speaking with Melissa Flores all about her new series, The Dead Lucky. So, Melissa, welcome. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you so much for having me, guys. I'm excited to be here.
Heck yeah. We're excited to have you on.
We're excited to talk about The Dead Lucky, which we both had the pleasure of reading, but our audience hasn't had a chance yet. Coming out August 3rd, is that right?
Yes, August 3rd.
All right, you must be excited.
You know, it's one of those. I'm one of those weird people, and I think it's because I was a producer for such a long time that I don't feel things until they happen, as they happen.
Sure.
Until then, I just worry about everything that can go wrong. And so, yes, I am excited. I think the books are at the printers, so when I probably get the books is when I'll first stop being like, "Oh wow, this is a thing that's actually happened to me," and it's very cool, and I'm very excited. I feel it in spurts right now, but I think August 3rd is probably when I will legit just collapse from disbelief.
Sure, yeah. Well, you guys pulled off one heck of a magic trick by having BB show up in Supermassive, which we also had the chance to read a bit ahead of time and could not talk about her for like a couple of weeks. So I can only imagine how you felt like not being able to talk about her at all for like a couple of months, I'm assuming.
Oh yeah, a year. I mean, I think BB was months in development.
Yeah, but then the fans still dug up, found her like cameo a little bit in one issue of Radiant Black and one cover with the video game cover.
Kyle's really good about putting in little Easter eggs like that, and so it was fun for me to see it and see who would catch her and be like, "Do you recognize this character? Where's she coming?" So that was really fun.
There's some people, some first appearance collectors out there that I'm sure, like, you know, now they got to go back. If they missed it, now they got to recover. You know how it works.
I do. But yeah, it was a lot of fun, and kudos to Kyle and the team for looking for those opportunities and seeding her in. So I think for the people that were looking for it, I think they were excited. I hope they were excited because it was fun for me though, for sure. That were they in Japan and Tokyo? It was the first time I'd actually seen her costume in print, and that was a lot of fun for me.
That's so cool.
That's really cool. And I remember reading that issue and I absolutely missed it. Because they had a really great joke at the bottom of it, like, what Sentai is that? As like the radiants are flying away. So I remember reading that page and like laughing in my car, but like I totally missed that BB and Rogue Sun had their first appearance. And I think Ordinary Gods too were all just Tokyo cameos.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty fun.
I was gonna say, let me ask you a question too, Melissa. Timeline wise, like, how do you remember exactly how far back planning for BB for what would become Dead Lucky? When did that all really kind of start?
Let me actually look at my files because I can look at dates and actually tell you. Dead Lucky comics.
Just because I know there's some people have this conception that a comic, not a lot of people, but some people do believe that the stuff just can come out, hey, we started planning this 3 months ago and here it is.
Okay, so I have a file that says Mech Girl Idea for 2021.
So
21,
and right. Dead Lucky one sheet 2/19. Yeah, so it was, I would assume March, April of 2021 is when this thing actually started. So it's been in development. It takes time because we had to, especially if you want the designs to be good and you want the art to be good, it takes time to put together a team. It takes time to design the suits, design the art, the characters. It takes time to put together a pitch document and develop the series and then actually get it approved by Image. And then it takes time to find out what window we're going to be launching in. For a long time I didn't know when she was going to come out because again it depends on now that I'm part of the Massiverse and part of Image, there's a bunch of other stuff that's coming out. That's not just Massiverse. It's also, so you have to find that window. When's a good time for Dead Lucky to premiere, as opposed to other stuff, especially because we have Radiant Red and Rogue Sun and all these other Massiverse titles that are coming before me. When's a good time for BB to show up that doesn't steal anybody's thunder, but also gives her a good place to kind of pop. And we were really lucky in that we were ready for Supermassive for that announcement, because I think it was the perfect time to make that kind of announcement. I really wanted it to be in Supermassive, and I was really hoping we could make it happen, because for me, it was just like, this is kind of perfect. This is very Marvel after credity. If we can make it happen here, that would be the best. And thankfully we were. So that was really cool.
I mean, it worked great. It was awesome being a fan as Supermassive release, because like you could see the reactions as people were reading through it, just like, oh my god, this happened, oh my god, this happened, oh my god, did you see the after credit scene of the comic book?
Yeah,
which is something I don't think I've ever said before. I don't think it's such a comic book movie trope, but I've never seen it done in actual comic books like to that degree before.
I mean, it's really cool because Kyle and the other writers and creatives are really, one, they're brilliant, every single one of them. But what Kyle is a director first and then a writer. And so he thinks of things, I think, really thematically, and he thinks big. And what's really cool about that is he takes things in the medium that maybe other people might not have thought of before, and tries to push those boundaries in really interesting and unique ways. And I think Supermassive, working with Ryan and Matt and Michael on that, was one of those ways, with all that beautiful fold out that you see in Supermassive, that after credit scenes where you introduce BB and he's kind of creating this world full of superheroes for Image with these other creators. Even like his Blacklight edition, the short film that he did. Even Ryan, Ryan announced a choose your own adventure version of Rogue Sun that's coming out in an upcoming issue. Like, they do things. I think they've been doing comics for a while now, and I think they're so brilliant with the medium because they push outside of what is expected and do some really cool things. And I think I'm just lucky to be part of that circle and to see what they're doing, because it is incredibly inspiring, and it also keeps a fire under my butt to make sure I deliver in terms of quality, because if I'm going to be in the same universe as these guys, I got to at least tell a good story.
Absolutely.
Speaking too of that creative universe, just to follow suit on this, for people who know your history, this is kind of a no-brainer question. For people who don't, you did spend many years, obviously, on Saban brands, and a year or so with Hasbro on the Power Rangers brand. You worked with Kyle Higgins and Ryan Parrott, and your relationship via Boom Studios when they were writing the comic book. How is this? Has this felt like I don't want to say homecoming, but this felt like a family reunion in a way, in the sense that, because those comics, those Power Ranger comics, especially back when they first launched, for that first probably 2-year period, even into the third year, those are huge. I mean, they top sales charts, and here we are now, X amount of years later, and that whole kind of creative think tank is now back together, and you guys are writing your own creator-owned books for Image now together in the same universe.
I mean, I wouldn't lie. I'm not going to lie and say that was not a big piece of it. I think the team created with Power Rangers and the leadership of Daphna with the Boom Studios books were unsurpassed. She's incredible. She's an incredible editor. She knows how to find talent and put them together. Kyle was an incredible first pick to take the books out. He had an incredible, unique view that I think the books would not have succeeded without that view and without how he wrote the books. And Ryan as well. What Ryan does with character is incredible. The Go-Go series was a perfect complement to the main series, and that he was able to take it over and do some incredible things after Kyle's run was done was, one, expected because he's amazing, but two, that's a lot of pressure to put on somebody, and he handled it incredibly well. And I was very lucky to be part of that process. It wasn't my job to be a writer on that. Obviously, it was my job just, to be there from a brand perspective. But because we were kind of going through a comics boot camp at the time with Saban Brands when they came on board. We weren't used to that kind of storytelling from comic books. We're used to more of a paper cuts version, which is younger, kid reader kind of thing. And so for them to come on board and having a completely different view, it did require education on our parts and kind of a shift in the way we thought and how we approach things. And to their credit, I think they were all incredibly patient with us. And one of the things I always wanted to do as I grew in my role as a director and as a producer, I always wanted to make sure that I told the kind of notes that, or shared the kind of notes that would help a writer tell the best story they possibly could. Because that's not my job. My job is not to be a writer. My job is to help them tell their story, but also maintain the integrity of the brand and make sure that the lore is correct and all that stuff. I wasn't always successful. I know that we've messed up sometimes with lore, but that was always the intention, because these books were treated we treated them at the time, and I don't know if they still do. I'm sure they do, as if they were canon. And that put a lot of pressure on the editors and the writers at Boom. But through that pressure and through that constant back and forth, I was able to become friends with Kyle and Ryan. And thankfully, they're really good guys and they're really smart guys. And Kyle and I were able to really connect in terms of appreciating each other's as people and also as creatives. And I think after a while, he started to trust my instincts. And after he left the comic books, he and I actually got much closer, because then we were working together on other things. I hired him for Power Rangers Battle for the Grid with Enway. So he wrote the story mode for us based on Shattered Grid. And we worked very closely with that. And there was no editor to kind of be the go-between. It was just us two working it out together with Amanda Cruz and Enway and the other people that were working on the project. So we got very close then. We became very good friends. And so it kind of was one of those things where it never felt like we stopped working together. We always were in each other's orbits. He left Power Rangers and then I did too. And when I left, it was one of those things where I was just like, hey, I could go and get another job as a creative developer somewhere, but that kind of felt like I wanted to die if that happened. And not because I was miserable doing what I was doing, but I felt like I had done everything that I wanted to do as a creative executive. And I kind of wanted the opportunity to tell my own stories and to give, like, I've always wanted to be a writer. I was a writer at one point, and I'm like, it's time to put up or shut up. If I think I can do this, then I can do this. And thankfully, through my relationships with Hasbro and Saban Brands, I had formed enough of them with people that, one, were incredible, and Kyle was one of them, that believed that I could and gave me shots to prove it. And with Kyle, it started with little one shots. You know, he asked me, hey, do you want to write these Marshall School of Business one shots for me? And I pitched him 4 ideas. He took all 4 and I wrote 4 comics. And then at the time I was developing another series called The Unleashed with my friend Megan Camarena, that was on Twitch. And he's like, hey, how do you feel like creating a backup series for Radiant Black with The Unleashed? And I was like, absolutely. So I think it was through those kind of experiences that he understood I could actually do what was required to run an ongoing series for Massiverse. And thankfully, he's very generous with his success. And he just asked one day, as Radiant Black became bigger and bigger, if I was interested in developing a superhero. So he told me to pick a city and pick a hero and come back to him with an idea. And I did. And thankfully he liked it. And he helped me put together a team and helped me put together a pitch. And that's how we got the Dead Lucky. So it was weird. It never really felt like we were out of each other's orbit. It is fantastic that I'm able to do this with Ryan and with Matt and with Michael, because you're right. We all have Power Ranger origins, and it's incredibly fun to kind of honor that in a very different kind of way.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
it does feel a little bit like coming home in that way. And they're such cool guys. They're also genuinely nice and smart. And the only thing I'm sad about is that I don't have a beard. But
you are the beardless.
we all gotta be different in our own way, I guess.
There you go. Well, I mean, the Power Rangers comics has been such an amazing proving ground for the Massiverse. And obviously, there are a lot of tokusatsu influences in each of your characters. Is there a Power Ranger trope that you kind of brought with you when writing the Dead Lucky that you really felt was like important to kind of capturing this genre?
Yeah, I think for me, the things that I loved the most about Power Rangers was when it came to this series was the robots, the Zords, and the suits. And so for BB, it was kind of one of those things where we had to ask those questions of what does this character look like? What is her thing? And I really wanted a robot book. I wanted a book with mechs.
Yeah.
Because I love mechs. Like I was just at my storage unit because I'm working with somebody discussing about possibly trying to like figure out a way to offload my collection because it is ridiculous. I have way too much stuff. And I looked at my collection of Zords and I'm like, this is insanity. This is insanity. I don't think I have as much as you, but I have a lot. And
very well.
and I've always loved robots. I'm always obsessed with the idea of sentience. And I think what the most interesting thing about Zords is that they're not quite alive, but they kind of are. And I kind of wanted to explore that a little bit differently because Zords, especially, you know, they come and they go. You don't really explore where they come from, and it's different with every season. And so I always thought that was really interesting. And so that's what I really wanted to play up, this partnership between BB and her mech. And then the second big thing was the suit itself. The suit is designed like I would have designed a Toku suit. It's very close fitting. It's meant to be, you know, very brightly colored. She has a helmet. It's because she has, I don't want to call it a morpher, but she's got a transformative device that she uses to put the suit on. And so there's those little elements that I really wanted to pay homage to my Toku origins, so to speak. But also with the kind of flavor that makes it unique and unto its own. So BB, you know, has her suit is very culturally motivated. It's modeled after a Mexican calavera, a sugar skull. So, but it's still a suit. It's a suit with a helmet. She still morphs, so to speak, quote unquote. But I would never say that in real life because I don't want to get sued.
Transforms technically, right?
Transforms, though. You know, when I was working with Power Rangers, one of the things was we never say transform. We always say morph. So it's kind of weird to get out of the other side of it.
I don't think Henshin's copyrighted, right? Henshin's probably okay.
Not in America, no.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take my cat off of here because now she's being a little dick. You gonna do that?
Cats.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it was one of those things. I don't want to write Power Rangers in this book. I feel like Power Rangers is a special kind of thing all in its own, and the books are already doing that very, very well. But I do want to honor the roots of Power Rangers because that is where I come from, and that is where I kind of nod my superhero legs.
It's one of the things I really appreciate about the Massiverse is that each one of these heroes, we'll use the term transforms, right? You see in all the major comic book companies like your Marvel, your DC, what have you, a lot of those superheroes, with the exception of maybe one or two, you know, hold on, let me put my suit on, or hold on, my suit's under my clothes or whatever. But these heroes all transform in a way when it's time to go to battle, and I think that's if there's one thing borrowed, I don't like saying borrowed from Power Rangers, right? Because Power Rangers is one of many different things. Yes, everyone has a connection to it. But I know it's very dangerous a lot of times to say, yeah, Power Rangers inspired, Power Rangers influenced. Definitely tokusatsu, you know, influenced in pieces. But yeah, I love that transforming aspect. I love that these are heroes that it goes back to the kid in me, right? So like when I read, you know, Dead Lucky, or when I've read Rogue Sun or Radiant Black, that little kid inside of you. It's like, hey, that, anyone could be Radiant Black because the power is tied to, the ability to transform. Versus, oh
Yeah.
man, I wish I got bit by a bug, or I wish I got, stuck with gamma rays, or was born as an alien on a different planet. And that's what I love about
You
these
don't need a
books.
butler to put your suit on for you.
Exactly.
Yeah, you
So,
don't have to be a billionaire.
Right.
Exactly.
You just need your best friend to be a Silicon Valley burnout, and then they can build your mech for you.
Oh, geez.
Speaking of which,
What other influences have gone into BB, into Dead Lucky? Not necessarily, comic book or your previous work experience, but just in real life, what kind of influence has gone to make? Because BB is an incredibly fun character. I've really enjoyed what we've seen of her so far.
So BB, it's the tone of the show, or the show, because I'm acting like it's a TV show. The tone of the
maybe
comic
someday.
book was, I think in the pitch document I said Cyberpunk 2077 meets Arcane meets RoboCop meets Iron Giant. Like
I
it's
see
very
all of that. Yep.
um so it was meant to be a little more neon, a little more futuristic, still meant to live in the world as it is. San Francisco is now. It's just the technology is maybe like 5-10 years in the future, because Morrow has come in and taken over this city and put all their technology in it.
Yeah.
But the character itself, BB, was heavily inspired by my relationship to my partner, who is an Army veteran, and the people I have met through her who are veterans. And we've been together a really long time. And one of the, I don't want to say difficult, one of the more challenging aspects of our relationship, which is great. We have an amazing relationship, but every relationship has challenges. For us, it was always this us versus them mentality I always felt when I was dealing with her soldier side. Because she was in the Army for a very long time, and there were things I just did not understand that she just does, and not just her, but other veterans that I've gotten to know through her. And for me, I just thought it was really interesting to be in that position, to be a soldier, heavily trained for incredibly traumatic situations, for incredible combat. No matter where you go, whichever forces you're doing, you are trained for months at a time to be literally broken and then molded into a soldier who carries guns and works with the squad and can pull a trigger when they need to and make decisions that are going to save many but maybe not a few. And then for a lot of these people, they're not lifers. They don't stay in the military forever. They come out and they're just kind of expected to forget all that and just to turn back into regular people. And that doesn't happen. And it requires adjustment, and it requires a lot of trying to understand where they fit in and trying to reorient themselves as to what stakes are in civilian life versus soldiers. And I was fascinated by that. It also was heavily influenced by a friend that we had 2 years ago who is also a veteran who unfortunately committed suicide. And was really just amazing, sweet, sweet man. One of Sandra's best friends. And it sucked to not understand why it happened, and to not understand what we could have done differently, because you never saw it coming. You didn't see it coming. But the way it happened, he did it in a way that maybe a soldier would have done it and not a person, not a civilian. In that, he made sure he couldn't be found right away. He did things very differently. And it made me really want to honor those kind of people, these veterans and soldiers who are dealing with a lot of survivor's guilt and a lot of trauma, and are just living everyday lives and are being asked to come home and have partners that love them that don't really understand, and have to deal with regular life again. and not know how to do it exactly and try to reintegrate into that process. And I wanted BB not to be all that experience. Like, that is not all she is. And I don't want to claim that she is the quintessential soldier experience, because it's always different. But in BB, what I hope to do is draw attention to that kind of person, to that kind of soldier, to that kind of person, and maybe give them a little bit more, um, I don't want to say understanding, because plenty of people understanding. Give them a little bit more, I would say, respect and honor, and just tell that story a little differently than maybe you see it, the way we've seen it done before, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's where BB comes from. So she's a character that I feel is literally stuck between worlds. She does not know how to be a civilian and does not know how not to be a soldier. And she's coming home to a place that she used to feel safe to her hometown, and it has been completely changed into this futuristic city that is now run by a corporation. And if she were in any other country, she would be told to fight this, but she's not. She's here. And so she's being told to accept it instead. And so it is a very confusing time for her, especially because she is buried in survivor's guilt and trauma, because she has lost so many people. And it's one of those things where nobody told her that after she left the army, she would keep losing people. And which is, it feels like a downer of a series, and I promise it's not, but that's where she's coming from. And the book is the story of her trying to heal past that.
Yeah.
By surrounding herself with people that love her and them trying to understand her back, if that makes sense.
It does. And I think there are a lot of superheroes out there who, being a veteran is almost like a line on a resume. It's like, you know, they are, but it doesn't affect how they behave at all. And I think the portrayal of BB, and again, I've read one issue, is incredible, realistic. I mean, my wife works at our local VA, so we know quite a few veterans ourselves. And yeah, that's why I was thinking to myself, it's her being a veteran is almost like such a selling point for this book, for its realistic portrayal of what coming home can be like.
And I really wanted that too. Sandra consults on every book. I make sure she reads every script, because I want to make sure, I'm not claiming to be a soldier, and I don't want to say that I know how to tell the definitive soldier experience. But what I want to do is lend little bits of authenticity into those moments, so that maybe if somebody reads a book, one, it reads as authentic to her, but also maybe sometimes somebody will feel a little less alone. I was talking to somebody that read the series, and they weren't a veteran, but they were talking about how her survivor's guilt, actually, they really identified, because they had gone through a similar issue where they had lost somebody very close, and they had a tremendous amount of survivor's guilt because they survived and that person didn't. And I think you need those kind of bits to help people really realize they're not alone. I think any people in general, we go through this life feeling so lonely. So a lot of times we feel like you're the only person that's alive, that you're like, that nobody understands. Like, you're sleeping with strangers sometimes, or you're talking to your family, and you're like, do they even know me? Am I like the only person that really feels this way? And as somebody that, I'm Latina, I'm queer, I'm female, I've felt a lot of otherness in my life. And so anything I can do in just the tiniest little bit to kind of show somebody that's maybe feeling that a little bit, like, hey, you're not alone here. People have felt this. And I've recognized that in speaking to people before, sometimes that's all it takes. Not, not everything. We're not here to answer all your problems, but like, we're here to say, hey, you're not alone. People feel this too. And sometimes that really helps. And I think that's what I'm really trying to do with those tiny bits of pieces. I'm not trying to tell a definitive soldier experience. I'm trying to tell BB's story because I love her as a character. But if people can identify with that in a way, I think that will help a little.
I liked not giving anything away from the issue, but even the beginning of that first issue, those opening scenes, we'll say at the doctor is what we'll say. For anyone who's dealt with that in their life for whatever reason, that felt like an incredibly real portrayal of something that that happens, where you feel like you're being led to a conclusion, to someone else's conclusion. Like, hey, we're here to talk, and I'm leading you, I'm leading you to the conclusion I want you to go to because I'm diagnosing you. And I picked up on that immediately. Like, and that's what I love so much about the book, because I feel like you've nailed it. I'm not a veteran. I do have family members who are veterans. I have an uncle who was a field medic in Vietnam. There's some stuff that, I mean, what very little he has shared with family is pretty intense. But everything from just a side comment of not wanting your back facing the door, wanting to have you're being able to see the door at all times, see your access points at every time. I can relate to that, just from my family and stuff that family have gone through, friends over the years. And that's some of the joy and majesty that this book really brings out. And you shook me. I'm being real with you here. You shook me a little bit, in a good way. And I think people that read this book, I know that they will get a sense of realism from this. This is not while there are fantasy elements to it, this is not a fantasy book in the sense of, superheroes in tights who save the day and stuff like that. This is a literally, I know I talked to you about this before, but I even got like a slight Batman Beyond aspect from this with the future, with the Salvation Gang and stuff like that. I was like, oh, I'm getting a little bit. But it feels so real to me. I mean, it's
That's
crazy.
what I'm hoping. I mean, there's a place for fun spandex, right? I mean, I think we all love that escapism. But I did that for 10 years and I had a lot of fun with it. I think for me, if this is going to be a superhero book told on my terms, I really wanted it to feel different and not just be, oh, Melissa's telling a superhero book. I want to tell a superhero book, and I want it to be fun, and I want it to be exciting, and I want it to be bombastic with incredible colors and robots and fights in Chinatown in San Francisco. Like, I want all of that because I think it's a lot of fun, and I want to have fun in whatever I'm doing. But I also want it to really try and mean something. And I think the best stories, and I think why even the Boom Power Ranger books were so successful, is that you got at the root of what makes a person and how they feel in whatever sort of struggle they're dealing with. And I'm a debut writer. I'm putting a lot of pressure on myself to do well, but I want it to feel, I want this to feel a little different than the other books, because I think it's a disservice to the reader if they're all the same.
Yeah, and it definitely stands out. And I think another big part of this is your portrayal of San Francisco under Morrow, where there are, almost like a tech takeover of the security industry there, and how I think BB's kind of the perfect character to kind of see this as someone who's been away and come back to something drastically changed. Whereas I'm sure the other citizens have it's been kind of a gradual stepping up of now it looks normal to them because they've been accustomed to the tiny steps that it took to get to this point. What kind of led you to thinking about robots patrolling the streets in the way that they are, and kind of the tech that is being used for arguably good, arguably bad, kind of on both sides of Morrow and the Salvation Gang?
I love robots. No. live in the coast. Obviously, I don't live in San Francisco, but my girlfriend does. I wanted to honor that city because I think it's a very interesting, special city. And I think if you pay attention, it's the dynamics of San Francisco are incredibly intricate and incredibly different. If you go and walk the streets of San Francisco, which I did numerous times while I was developing the book, you see those changes. I wanted it to do something that could easily happen if we let it.
Mhm.
And I feel like San Francisco is that perfect kind of city. You have the dichotomy of old Chinatown and this old, like, all this history that happens in San Francisco. You have a lot of tragedy that happens in San Francisco. With the earthquakes of 19 I don't know if the 10s or 20s, and you have Chinatown was created because there was so much blatant racism in the streets of Chinatown. They brought people there to work in San Francisco and then didn't want to see them, so they got stuck in this little area, and that's why they created all those tiny little roads, all these districts. The gay rights movement in San Francisco, all these districts that were created that are so, like, they're so blocked off. You can turn one street. Like, I remember we're walking down in the financial district. We're in this beautiful hotel, and it was Christmas time, and there was a rolling rink in front of us. It was gorgeous. You walk one block, and there were police cordons there, and there were cops, and it felt dangerous to be there.
Mhm.
And then we walked another block, and you see this beautiful, and actually we recreated that in the first issue. You see this beautiful Stockton tunnel,
Mhm.
but you walk through that, and all of a sudden you're in a completely different world. You're in Chinatown. And it was fascinating to me. And then you read the news, and the news is talking about how nobody can afford to live in San Francisco anymore because it's been taken over by tech bros, by people, by Silicon Valley rich people who are driving up the rent. And now all these people that wanted to live in that have lived there for years can no longer afford to live there anymore and are being pushed out. But what's even happening now is because of the pandemic, people don't have to go into the office anymore. So now they're being pushed out of even those smaller communities that live outside of San Francisco, because everybody's remote working now and moving out of San Francisco. And so the streets are desolate and quiet. And you see all this technology that's happening kind of under our noses. And I am not anti-technology. Like I said, I love robots. If I could put a cyber implant in me that's not going to let me forget stuff, like, I would.
Oh, that'd be great.
But
Fantastic.
but I think also you have to pay attention. And I think it's one of those things that, like, you don't think things happen until they do. Like, you didn't think they were going to overturn Roe versus Wade until it did.
Yeah.
And given how corporate interests work so hard to lobby politicians, it is not unfathomable to me that a large enough corporation, and there are plenty of them now, with enough power could very easily go to a government and say, hey, this city's in shitter. It's not doing well. It's not doing well. People are crying out for a solution. Let us do it. And we are going to pay for everything. We are going to turn this city into a perfect city of tomorrow. We're going to put all of our billions of dollars into it. We're going to put robots on the streets that are going to guard everybody. We're going to give everybody free healthcare and affordable housing. And we're going to turn this. You're going to see what we could do if we were in charge of the city. And if things are bad enough, and if the government is corrupt enough, it's very feasible that somebody would be like, okay, absolutely, let's try it.
It kind of scared the
And
crap out of me right now. I'm not gonna lie. I got
Yep.
you see it, right? Like, it could happen.
Well, yeah,
And,
that's the scary part.
Yeah.
and who's not to say that Moro, like, I don't want to say that Moro's interests are necessarily bad. There are genuinely good people working for Moro that truly believe this is the way to do things.
Mhm.
And there are truly people on Salvation Gang that maybe aren't doing things correctly. They just maybe want to be anarchists. So it's kind of a muddy situation all over the place. But when I created that world and I did this idea of Moro, I wanted to paint this picture of, and I'm not trying to be political, but I want to paint a picture of this is something that could happen, and how we're the land of the free, right? We're the home of the brave. Or when you have these soldiers that sign up that literally are like, bleed red, white, and blue and truly believe we are the land of the free and go to these other countries to make sure that democratic institutions happen.
Mhm.
And then you come back here and the city is under martial law. Like, that's what I wanted to put this. I wanted to make her as uncomfortable as possible. And this is how you make BB uncomfortable. And the fact that this is taking place in San Francisco makes it that much more interesting, because if you read the news now, when I was there, people were leaving their car doors open and their trunks open because they got so tired of their car windows being smashed in downtown because there was just so much crime and they don't know how to handle it. And I just thought it was kind of, I don't want to say perfect because that sounds sadistic, but it was relevant in a way that I could not ignore.
It's wild. I mean, it's one of those things where I truly hope your book continues to be read as sci-fi 5 years from now.
Same.
You know what I mean? I really, truly hope that.
Yeah, I like the realism of the book, but we're gonna draw a line that I don't want that to cross.
Well, it's kind of like that when Squid Game became super popular and everybody was obsessed with it, and then Netflix later was like, "We're gonna make Squid Game the reality show.
We're gonna do it for
They're like,
real," and it's like
"No, you
nobody
didn't."
learned their lesson.
That was the, yeah.
Yeah. But I do like that. Like, the book is very not anti-tech. There is a lot of really cool tech that's being used, and I love the design of Ghost, because Ghost does look like, I can imagine seeing a TikTok of someone who made a ghost in like their garage, and just watching it like stomp around would be incredible. But he can do so much more than that in this book, and that is like leading to a lot of really dynamic fights.
Yeah, Ghost is the difference between Morrow and BB's Ghost and BB's mech is that Ghost is brought to life by BB.
Right.
And one thing Morrow has not cracked is AI sentience.
Mm-hmm.
How to make something truly alive. And they don't like that BB has. Because if you crack AI sentience and you found a way to live forever. And BB, I don't think even understands that that's what she has done. She truly just wants a partner, and she has the ability, thanks to these powers, to do that, to bring this mech to life and create a partner. And that is as far as she's thinking right now. But Morrow thinks differently. And so they're going to have a complicated relationship, because they're very interested in BB and what she brings to the table. And she, I don't think, even realizes that. I'm not anti-tech either. I freaking love it. I love technology. But with every bit of everything, we also have to be aware of what we're doing and be prepared to be okay with what we're doing. It's one of those things where I know every time I turn on my phone, I can be tracked at any moment. So.
Yep.
Yeah, those Facebook ads. I'm like, hey, I was looking at that hat like 2 days ago, and now it's sitting there on this website saying I should buy it.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's like, wow, I even just thought it, and it showed up as a targeted ad.
And then on Instagram, like, it pops up as a sponsored promoted ad because you said it out loud while your phone was on. Yeah, that's happened.
I'm gonna be honest. I've been super lazy now sometimes, and I'll be like, "Hey, phone, remember that other thing that I saw? That'd be really cool if I saw that again." You try to get it.
Scary how often that would probably work. I mean, my wife and I were scrolling through, like, placing an online Target order just today, and we saw there was like some sort of like punny llama like granola bars, and we're like, that's funny. And then we kept scrolling, and then they popped up like again, almost as if the app was like, hey, you didn't buy these, but it did make you laugh. Like,
yeah.
And I can't prove,
because it tracks your engagement, and it tracks how long your eyes are on the app before you scroll.
Mm-hmm.
And so they try to get you. It's fascinating and incredibly interesting. The masters of human psychology are marketers.
Absolutely.
They are like better than any doctor, in my opinion. Like, they know how to get you.
Mm-hmm.
God, this is all so dystopian. I'm not trying to be
I know. It's okay.
I swear to God, this is
the world here. It's like,
I'm not trying to scare anybody. I promise.
Okay. let's talk about something a bit more upbeat. Did you invent Birria Bao?
Yes.
Or is
Well,
yes.
I don't want to say I was the first
Fantastic.
person that invented the birria bao, but yeah, I
Mhm.
mean, I have had a Chinese partner for 10 years. My best friend is Chinese. And my partner loves Mexican food. So I've had to eat a lot of Chinese food and Mexican food and barbecue because she's also a soldier. And apparently that's a thing that they know how to do. And so I really wanted to honor all of our favorite foods. And BB is biracial. She's pansexual. I really wanted to play into this fusion idea with the food as well. And so when I wanted their parents to own a restaurant, I was like, it'd be perfect to do a Chinese Mexican barbecue fusion restaurant. And then I could come up with really fun stuff that like isn't supposed to work, but maybe tastes and smells delicious. And the really fun part of that is like birria bao was the first thing I thought of because Sandra's been recently obsessed with birria. And what's the first thing anybody tries to do with when they try to do fusion? Instead of a taco, you put it in a bao. And but it sounds really good. And thankfully, Sandra agreed, and she actually put a recipe together. So it actually is a thing that exists now, which hopefully I can share once it's perfect.
Say
And
throw
so
in the back of an issue.
that's and it's been fun then to start thinking of new recipes to add in the issues when I can put them in.
I can't wait to see that.
That's
I've been
I
trying
would-
to crack the Birria Bao here. I haven't gotten to the bao yet, and I made a very mediocre Birria the other day, but I'm working on it. I'm gonna figure that one out someday.
Can't wait. It'll be fun. And it's one of those things where you know it's a good idea because people bring it up, and that makes me happy. I love food. Food's the way you connect people together, and it makes me happy.
Yeah.
It's made me very happy over the years.
I think BB's parents, obviously, like you said, own a restaurant. And I don't think we've gotten names yet, but they're adorable. And I've loved getting to read about them. Are we gonna get to know a bit more about kind of their history as the book goes on too? And are they gonna have more and more great fusion?
Yes.
Foods? Yeah.
I mean, I have a family that's very important to me. I have both of my parents. I think so many superhero stories. They tell stories, and I don't want to say it's easy, but it's definitely a very quick way to add angst is to Batman it and kill your parents. And I didn't want that for BB. What I really wanted to make clear was that she has people that love her and that will try to support her. That's not her issue. Her issue is that she wasn't loved enough. Her issue is that she's dealing with some mental health problems that make it very difficult for her to accept that love or to connect with it. And so that is why she has her parents are very nice. They're nice people who are working class people that work very hard. And we'll see more of them, and we'll see them try to connect with their daughter in an interesting way. It won't be the only people trying to connect with BB. It's just a matter of who actually is successful and how they go about doing it. Because nobody really understands where she's coming from.
Right.
Right. I'm tiptoeing around subjects because I don't want to get into spoiler territory.
I know what you mean.
There is a very nice turn pager at the end of the book that people definitely need to experience.
Let's not spoil that, but I'm very excited about it.
I'm not spoiling about that. I'm looking forward to more of that, and we'll leave it at that. We're introduced to a lot of different characters in this book, some by name, some not by name. There is a character in the Salvation Gang that seems to have a lot more dialogue than the others. I imagine that character will reappear at some point down the road.
Yes, you can probably imagine correctly.
And I know there is a police officer in this book who happens to take a glance at something and sees something.
Maria. That's Maria. Maria is absolutely an important character. Maria is she is somebody who again is going to become very important to BB very quickly, and she has her own interesting struggles and journeys. She is a very good police officer, and she's very good at what she does. And she has her own reasons to be upset with Morrow being here, but she also doesn't fully trust the badge anymore. And she did something that got her in trouble and got her in the position where she is now, which is basically a glorified babysitter. And so she has her own axe to grind and her own chip on her shoulder, but she's in a very different position than BB in that she is an officer and takes that very seriously. And so I really like Maria. I think she's a very interesting character, and it'll be how she chooses to engage the conflict is still up for grabs. Honestly, she's still figuring out who to trust and what side she really is on. Is she like? Because she, I think, out of everybody, is probably in the best position to understand where Morrow is coming from, and also where BB is coming from. Yeah. And there's no real right or wrong in this. In the solution, like, what is the solution? Like, what is BB's real end game here? She just decide like what happens. Morrow's not just going to go away. So like, what is she doing? What is the point? So those are the questions she's going to be asking and challenging BB in a way that maybe she's not used to, which is a lot of fun.
I'm guessing that can be as simple as punching Mr. Morrow in the face, if there even is a Mr. Morrow. Exactly. Could just be a name taken from tomorrow. Like
I was going to kind of throw that out there, like there doesn't seem to be a singular entity to focus like this is the bad guy. It's more of a societal change in that city that is the bad guy, so to speak. Like, how do you crack down on that?
Well, there's no, like, I want to say, there is that saying, to be a CEO or a president, a lot of them are sociopaths.
Yep.
Because you have to not care. Mm-hmm. So you definitely see some kind of flavor in upper management, I think, of people that, are beholden to stockholders and want to do things that require profit. But there are also people, like I said, who do care, who definitely think they are doing the good thing. And Morrow's origins, I would say, are not steeped in evil. Like, they didn't come out to destroy the world or to take it over. Yeah. But it's one of those things where the beast grows 3 heads and all of a sudden it becomes untenable. And so you did get to see Morrow, and I am a person of corporate. I was a corporate suit for a very long time. And so you do see me play with those dynamics because I experienced them for a long time. And did I meet mustache twirly people? Sometimes. Did I meet
for a reason they exist?
Good people that are just trying to do their jobs and care really hard. Also, yes. There's no one person that makes up a corporation, and I think the majority of people are just trying to do their best. I think you can get to a point where you become so powerful and you become so high up that the real world just stops existing and you can lose touch a little bit. So your world becomes much smaller and your agenda becomes much bigger. And so you could in that perspective, you could see how the little person stops mattering. Yeah. In BB's case, she was a soldier and she had to make decisions that affected people and sometimes made wrong ones. And sometimes, was responsible for people dying. Cause that's what happens when you're a captain. You make decisions and people die sometimes. And so I think more than anyone is kind of prepared to take on that kind of mentality when it comes to confronting it with Morrow. But they're not going to go away. Like, it's not one of those things where you just defeat the bad guy and they go to jail. Morrow is in charge of San Francisco. Short of the government coming in and saying, no, never mind. They are in charge of San Francisco. This is what the situation is. So just like to your point, just punching them isn't going to solve anything except maybe land BB in jail. So
true.
It becomes a situation, and it comes one of the things versus like, do you deal with the devil or the devil you don't?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
I could say I know how that ends, but I don't.
No, I know. There's so many questions here.
There.
There's so many questions here that are like, I know it's going to be answered by like, issue 4, 5, 10, 12, whatever. But like, I'm so curious about what's going to go on, how she's going to solve these issues. And you're going to C2E2 also, right?
I am. Yes.
All right, great. I will see you there.
That's awesome. Yeah, it'll be fun.
Yeah.
I've never been to Chicago. I was born in Chicago, but I haven't been since I was born. So I'm excited.
You kind of have been to Chicago, but like not really.
I don't remember it.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember those suits, like the kind from A Christmas Story, where that kid.
Oh,
was
like in like the walls or in the windows.
I have pictures of me in that like suit, like that kid has.
Yeah.
That is like, but that's all I remember. I remember being very warm.
Are you? I mean, obviously, you're excited to go to San Diego. You got a lot of stuff going on at San Diego. What's it feel going and being a creator now, as opposed to a corporate suit, as you would call it? Like,
I'm just so glad I don't have to work a booth. It makes me so happy. You don't understand. My feet hurt so bad last time. It hurt so. My feet hurt so bad. I could not enjoy the con because my feet hurt so bad from standing.
I remember that. I remember you were just kind of standing there like.
I'm like, this isn't even my job. I was just doing it for a favor, but it hurt so bad. No, I was happy to do it and happy to meet everybody, but I'm so glad that I don't have to do that now. My feet really hurt. It was, funnily enough, I know, Tyler, I completely interrupted you and you still had a question, so we'll totally answer. But funnily enough, one of the sweetest things that happened to me at a con that year was there was a soldier who had come to Comic-Con on his own, didn't know anybody, was just excited to be there. He had dressed up as Luffy from One Piece.
Nice.
And he came to the Hasbro booth and he was a Power Ranger fan, so he just started talking to me. And so I talked to him back. And he was so cute. He came back every day to talk to me and just tell me how his day went. And it was so sweet because I wondered, I'm like, does he have like nobody else to talk to about his day? Is it just me? Am I like the person that he thinks about? Like, I can't wait to tell Melissa this now because this is what happened to me today. And it was literally, it stuck with me. I'm like, this is such a sweet guy. And I'm so glad that I was here to make his experience better because he came by every day at the end of the day to tell me what he did and how excited he was that day. And then he said the last day he came and said goodbye to me. And it was just like, I like miss that guy. That was like such a sweet moment for me. And that was probably the highlight of that year, was just having that guy just show up in his Luffy costume and talk to me for, an hour at a time. Because he was at a con and he was looking to make friends, and it was very sweet.
That's fantastic.
The power of conventions and why it's a great thing that they're back. It really, really is.
Yeah.
Unless I catch COVID.
No, don't say that. Don't put that in the universe, Melissa. Do not put it in the universe.
I'm terrified, you guys. I canceled everything because I didn't want to catch COVID before I went to San Diego. But now I'm like, if I catch COVID at San Diego, I can't go to C2E2. And like I would hate that because Dead Lucky comes out August 3rd and C2E2 is the 4th.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I want to be there. I want people to read the book and I want to talk to them about it. And I want to be at that cool party at Lockport. And I can't do any of that if I catch COVID.
Hold your breath a lot. Just be like,
So yeah, so you may not see me on the floor that often unless I have a panel or a signing.
Sure. Yeah. Let's see. I don't remember exactly what question we were getting into before we talked about cons, but something I do want to know that we haven't got around to yet is how did you come up with the name The Dead Lucky? Because I know you said it was saved as like mech girl ideas in your computer at first. Where did the name come from?
BB is obsessed with death.
Sure,
she's obsessed with death, and BB is also dealing with a heck of a lot of survivor's guilt. And there is a phrase that she said in the original pitch, and that she says in this issue, and it is, it's not the good that die young, it's the lucky.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where that came from, the Dead Lucky. It's one of those things where it sounded right for the book based on that theme. And it just sounds like a cool name anyways,
Yeah. It does.
But
And
I mean, you see people tell her, hey, you're lucky that you survived this, and she's like, I don't really feel lucky. And luck becomes one of those things that she kind of starts to hate the word. And so it just made sense for the series to be like, yeah, the dead lucky.
Love it.
Yeah. Is that a name we're going to see in universe used, or are we going to just kind of refer to her as BB? Because it seems like she wants to keep her identity a secret.
She does.
Yeah.
I think people start calling her the Ghost Soldier.
Okay.
But when it comes time for her to adopt a moniker, I would not be surprised if it is Dead Lucky. But the Dead Lucky is not her, it is her squad. It is her and her mech. She doesn't really see herself as just a singular hero. She always includes Ghost. Ghost is her partner. They are a team.
Yeah, absolutely.
Heck yeah.
Let's see.
Hence why it's called The Dead Lucky.
The Dead Lucky, yeah. Because it does sound like a team name. And I remember some discussion over the Supermassive crossover, because Ghost was kind of blurred out in the background. And there was some discussion about, like, is this a team of people that we're going to see? Is it like a duo? Yeah. And I think it's just been...
If you pay attention, Ghost wasn't the only one that was blurred out in that background. Shadows. There was more than one, so I wouldn't be surprised if you see more mechs in the future.
Ooh. Gosh, that's such a good promise. I love mechs.
But for now, she's got Ghost, and that's good enough for her.
Yeah, and Ghost is a good mech.
Yeah.
Ghost is fun. Ghost is very... you look at other forms of media in the last 2-3 years, popular forms of media, and immediately one of my first interactions that reminded me of was Spider-Verse. With the Japanese Spider-Man girl from the future.
That was also an inspiration.
Yeah,
that was also an inspiration.
Yep.
That moment
that immediately, and I was like, oh, that's so cool, because that is definitely something that, being a big robot guy, like, I want to see more of that. I want to go to that world real quick and spend some time there. So yeah, I got that feeling a little bit from when I...
And the bond between the two of them was always very special and interesting. And I think that was one of the most special parts of Spider-Verse for me, was when the spider got hurt and you just saw her devastation. That is truly BB's connection with Ghost. Like, she truly views him as a partner, as a person, and I think she feels more connected to him than any living thing around her at this point.
If you hurt Ghost, there's gonna be problems. I'm just saying.
He's gonna turn into the puppy of this
everybody
series.
Is gonna get hurt. Everybody.
No.
That is just the reality of the situation. It is that kind of book.
I think it's gonna be that combination of, if Ghost ever gets hurt and sad at the same time, that's what's gonna crush me. Is it that puppy kind of like big wide eye surprise hurt kind of thing? Not that Ghost has eyes, but
Well, I will say the one that probably gets most hurt in the first few books, and I just finished scripting issue 4, is BB. BB goes through it for sure.
Sure. Yeah.
I was gonna say, you can't do that to BB. You can't have her deal with survivor's guilt and then give her this really awesome robot mech partner that's alive and then hurt it. You can't do that. That's not fair to BB. That's not fair to us as readers.
I mean, how dare you put this superhero in danger?
He knows what he's signing up for. He's in there with her.
Oh gosh. Well, so if I don't mean to take us off of Dead Lucky too much, but I need to ask you, because I know before this you were also director and writer on Power Rangers Hyperforce. So yes, I know you have...
I helped develop it. Cameron Rice and Malika wrote the majority of the episodes. I did help them develop it for sure.
Right. So do you have much of a history with tabletop RPGs, and
none
any of that?
None at all.
Oh, really?
Did any of that what? Sorry, I completely...
Oh, sorry. Did any of it play into kind of developing a character by creating BB and thinking about, like, making a character from scratch with powers and how you're going to pick the powers and everything like that?
You know what? I didn't, but I saw your sheet for BB and I was fascinated. I thought
Thank
that was
you.
amazing.
Yeah.
I had no, but there was when we did the Unleashed, I worked with a very incredibly talented DM called Abria Iyengar, who
I
has
love
since
Abria.
been on
She's
Critical
fantastic.
Role and D20 and a bunch of Kolak and a bunch of other incredible. She's brilliant, very smart, probably the smartest person I've ever met in my entire life. And she had this tool that I thought was super interesting that would basically help create these characters. And I remember being fascinated by it when I saw her do it, because it was such a smart way of doing it. And to the life of me, I wish I could remember what it was. It was like, I think it's actually coming out. It's like a GM tool that's happening. I don't want to say anything else because I might have just like
Tyler's eyes like, huh?
but
Yeah, I might do some Googling after this interview.
but for me, when I create characters, they kind of just pop up in my head and they kind of just live there. I do, their backstories inform who they are as characters, and I think that very much helps with the like a D&D-ish aspect. Like, for me, it's like, what is the most polarizing thing you like? What is what makes this person interesting, and how do you make them as uncomfortable as possible? And that's usually where I try to put them. What is going to make this for me? I come from the USC School of Cinema kind of development, which is like, you look at the character and you're like, what does this character want versus what they actually need, and how does that relate in their journey? And for me, that's how I develop a character. I look at what they want versus what they need, because they are often very different. And that helps inform for me where the character is going and what is important to that character and how they get there. Another thing I found really interesting, which I love to play with, is the idea of a broken compass, where it kind of falls into the want versus need, where you think you know how you're going to get there, but your compass is broken, so you're doing it all wrong. And I really like that kind of character, that kind of story, where if you're trying to do what you want and not what you need, then you're going to do everything wrong, because it's not what you're actually supposed to be doing. And I feel like that is a really good way to work on journey for the character and develop what they're supposed to be doing. Because along the way, you make these mistakes and you learn and you adjust and you grow. And along the way, then after that, that's when you discover what you're actually supposed to do. And by the end, maybe what you want and need are the same thing, but you might have just gotten a variation of that. And that's when the true story feels complete, in my opinion. Because we're all changing and growing and making mistakes, right? So what's the point? What's the point of telling a story if you're not trying to get there? And I think the characters we all truly admire are the ones that are going to do everything they can to get there, even if they're doing it terribly, because they're just not giving up.
Do you know? I mean, do you already know in your head where BB's story ends?
I know that in order for BB to truly be complete, she's going to have to move on with her grief. If she ever truly does that, the book will end.
Gotcha.
Is she in a position to do that right now? Absolutely not. She is in no way ready to deal with her grief or ready to move on. And it is going to take a long, long time for her to get there, because I think she finds comfort in it.
I think that journey is kind of really well conveyed in issue 1. And it's something that I'm definitely excited to read and see progress, and like the steps and missteps and setbacks towards achieving something I think that everyone can relate to.
Yeah, I hope so. That's the intention, for sure.
It's definitely a world I'm excited to be a part of, if that makes sense. Like, I'm excited to have this window into this world that you're creating with BB, with San Francisco, with Ghost, with Moro. Um,
I hope so.
It's very exciting, and I'm really hoping people dive into this book and give it a chance, because it's fantastic. I mean, I've known you for a long time, but I absolutely love the book. Like, it is fantastic.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I hope so, because I look at the Massiverse books and everybody is just so freaking good at what they do. Rogue Sun, the way Ryan tells the story is insane, and you know what Kyle has coming for Radiant Black is incredible. And I'm here in San Francisco with my little robot, just trying to tell a good story, and it's intimidating in the best kind of way.
Is it all? I'm assuming it's all happening at the same time, right?
Yes,
If you're able to, I'm assuming like what's happening.
Yeah.
And
But yeah, this is San Francisco. The only place that has robots on the street and all this crazy cyber tech is San Francisco, because it's a Moro city.
Okay.
That's why you're not seeing it in New Orleans or Chicago. But it is all happening at the same time.
Knowing Kyle the way he is, I would not be surprised if we see on a background TV screen at some point somewhere a Moro ad.
He already put Moro in Shift. Yeah.
He's in Shift.
Oh, did he put in Shift?
Yep. Moro's mentioned
Shift
as like
is an
one of the
Moro contractor.
Yep. Kyle, he got you. He Kyled you.
He snuck that one by me.
Yeah, it was nice, because that's when I actually truly felt that BB was part of this world, when he's like, oh, I love the idea of Moro, let me put Moro other places. I'm like, okay, this is a universe and we're a part of it.
Speaking of it as a universe,
Supermassive 2, right?
Electric Boogaloo.
Right, that's coming, right?
I would love to be a part of something like that.
With BB coming in.
I will if they announce a Supermassive 2 and I am not a part of it, I will throw a tantrum and kick down doors. I know with Kyle lives, he can't keep that from my dead hand. I don't know anything.
He can't hide from you.
He can't hide from me, but I mean, they did it once. If they can do it again, I'd love BB to be a part of it. But that will be up to them to decide and announce.
Heck yeah. I mean, Radiant Black with a big giant robot, and BB with Ghost, or possibly other mechs by that time.
You never know.
Let's
go.
I
remember one time I was trying to pitch, just as for fun. I was like, what if BB went up with against Radiant Black with Ghost? He's like, that'd be a very short fight. He's too powerful. And I'm like, ow! Okay. I'm like, I see what you mean, but still, ow.
Well, is there any either main character, side character, bad guy, just like one singular character that could sneak over to the Dead Lucky for an issue? Is there anyone you'd really love to see interact with BB and Morrow in San Francisco and all of that?
Yeah, Radiant Pink I think would be freaking hilarious.
That'd be great. Yeah.
Radiant Pink would drive her freaking crazy.
Do it, make it happen.
Do it.
Kyle, I need to borrow a character for a couple issues.
No, I think BB is so interesting in that, just the whole Radiant Black world where they are superheroes. They're playing at superheroes. Like, BB does not see herself that way. She is a soldier first. And that would probably annoy the heck out of her, because that's not what she wants. She's not here to be a hero, because she knows what it takes to make those kind of choices, because she's already made them. So either Marshall or Eva would probably drive her freaking crazy. Like, what are you doing?
Radiant Pink would make the most sense too, because with her power, she could just be like, I am in San Francisco because the best smoothie place happens to be down the street. Like, and so I popped it in an hour ago. Like,
yeah. Well, and like, Eva is a brainchild of Megan and Kyle, and like as Megan's like family to me, and I know how much love she has for that character and how interesting and complicated Eva is. So it would be really fun to see them interact.
Oh yeah, you two putting your heads together in a writer's room, probably again to write like a crossover like that would be.
It would feel like a Hyperforce reunion in a way.
It would.
Yeah. She's great. She's so talented, and I was so happy that she got to do that with Eva. Excited to see where Eva goes.
Comic-Con.
For sure.
Some news coming out of San Diego Comic-Con for you.
Yeah, quite a bit of it. I'm very lucky to be there as a creator this year, for sure.
It's out there, but not really.
New projects. One of which is taking over Power Rangers as a comic book writer. Yeah.
Mason, I called it. Eric, I called it. Check the messages. I called this. I definitely said this was going to happen.
When it was announced
Yes.
that Ryan and Matt would be leaving the books, the first person Tyler started spitballing was you.
I had three
I'm
potentials. I had three
very
potentials.
lucky.
I said number one was Melissa.
I appreciate that. I'm very lucky and very fortunate that I have managed to prove that I can write. It is not a task I take lightly, and it was honestly terrifying to be asked, especially when I saw the reaction to Matt and Ryan leaving. But incredibly honored, really to be asked by Daphne and the team, and really want to do my very best to honor the 100 issues that came before me, because I was there for so many of them, and they mean so much to me. And with my run, what I hope to do is maintain that same flavor, but also I'm not there to just explode the world. I'm there to bring it together, and to continue that legacy in a fun, hopefully fun, interesting way that is also going to, there are things I haven't forgotten that I'd love to finally be able to do. And now that I'm the writer, I can. And so that's been really fun. And the team has been amazing, amazing art team. And thankfully, I know Matt, I know Ryan, I know Kyle. So if I have questions, they are incredibly supportive, all three of them, and incredibly sweet. And I'm very lucky that we're all family on Massiverse, that I can ask them. We're on the same panel. We're on 2 panels together, that I could just ask them.
I don't.
So I'm very lucky.
I don't mean to speak for Tyler, but I'm sure he would agree with me 100%. We're going into the 30th anniversary. It feels, with everything you've gone through, everything you've been a part of, how things kind of came to an end, and how here they are kind of on a new beginning. I really feel like it is so appropriate and so right as we start this next chapter for that brand, that you are taking the helm on the comics.
I really appreciate that. Thank you.
You're the perfect person for it. You've been
when
there since the beginning.
As soon as I got word, I a lot of positive expletives were said, because
That
it
really
is
means a lot.
when you follow a book, and it doesn't matter what book it is, right? It could be any book. When there's a writing change, you're so used to a writing talent or writing team, and obviously Ryan's been there for what feels like forever at this point, and everything that Matt had helped with in the past, and then getting a chance to write the book for a bit, like it's scary to be like, okay, like who's going to take over this property that, some of my most favorite stories in that brand have come from this comic book, which says a lot over something that has 30 years of history, that the 4 years in the comics or 5 years in the comics are some of like the top of the top 10. They're like 8 of the top 10 stories. It's scary to lose all that, because you never know what direction you're going. But when we found out that it was going to be you, like, here we go. Like, I'm on board. Like, be gentle, but throw it at us. Like, give us what you got. We're on board for it.
Oh man, that's very sweet. Thank you. I will say it's terrifying. It is legitimately terrifying, because you can talk the talk so much, and then you actually have to walk it, for sure. And so it's one thing to be on one end giving notes when somebody else has to come up with the ideas, and it's another to have to be the one coming up with ideas and then getting notes.
You could be one of the very few creatives who have been on both sides of that. Now that I'm sitting there thinking about, like,
that has honestly been the key to my success so far, honestly. Not just with this, but with other writing gigs that I've gotten in general in the last 2 years that I've been trying to actually do this and make this a career. Because I've been on both sides, I tend to take notes very well, because I've been that producer that have to give the crappy notes sometimes, and have to give the notes that seem to not make any sense. And so I tend to take them well. if I do say. And I remember I was asking Kyle, I was like, hey, Kyle, what's my superpower? He's like, you've been on both sides and you know how to talk to producers. And that has actually really helped for sure. But I mean, the team is incredible. Allison, the editor, is amazing. Gwen is great. She's been on the books for years. Daphna is on Boombox now, but she's still involved in Power Rangers for my run at least, however long it lasts. And so it's going to be a fun time. And then I'm also working a staff job right now. I'm a staff writer on something very cool that I can't talk about. That is also a full-time job. So
you are busy. You are a very busy person.
And then there's something else that I can't talk about that's really cool, and I'm really excited. That's doing really, really well. So
that just means we'll have to have you back on the show.
I'm very blessed. I'm very fortunate, and it is all thanks to incredible people who thankfully believed I could do it and gave me opportunities to prove it. And so I can't complain at all. I'm just very honored and happy and just hope that I don't, screw up.
I will say I have never had anyone ever say anything negative about you in the entire history that I've known you or anything like that. So that is a testament to your character.
No, I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
And you're a good person. You and I have been friends for years now, and I'm so incredibly happy for your success. I really, truly am.
Thank you. I'm saying to you guys,
it proves so there's fun. Good things in the universe do still happen. So I'm just
the
Power Rangers thing shocked me too, believe it or not. Daphna and I remained close because we worked together for 6 years. You go through the trenches with somebody, but I did not expect Power Rangers to be a thing that came out of it. So I was very honored and excited, and also very determined to do a good job.
Having Independence Day, that scene towards the end, like, "Hey boys, I'm back."
Well, and thank you to Hasbro for also allowing it to happen. So yeah, I'm very lucky, and hope that you guys like what I do.
You knowing everything, because I remember you've talked so many times in the past about how you when you joined Saban Brands back in the day, you had to learn everything about Power Rangers. You had to become a fan. Same thing, even like Kyle said, hey, he watched it to a certain point and then he never watched it again. And when he started doing all this stuff, he had to go back and watch things for the first time. That seems to do well for the track record on that kind of learning process is done well.
Oh man, yeah, I didn't read the books for 2 years after I left because it hurt a little to read them.
Yeah, it's like checking out on X, how you doing?
Yeah. But then when I got the gig, I had to read 2 years of Power Rangers in a week.
But the plus side is it's Ryan stuff.
It was amazing. It was actually very humbling because you want to always think that the place is gonna fall apart without you, and then to find out it keeps going and to the level of quality that it does. I'm just like, yeah, they didn't need me. What the fuck? But no, it was so much fun to read, and Ryan is so incredible. If you haven't read his Rogue Sun run, please do. He's it's so
big fans of
good.
Rogue Sun over here.
And Matt Groom is just so freaking smart. Just reading his scripts for the last 2 issues that he was doing for Power Rangers, I'm like, this guy is his IQ must be incredible because the level of detail.
He made Rocky a likable character, which I didn't think was an impossible thing. I mean,
absolutely incredible. And Michael Busuttil, who's the editor, who works so freaking hard on everything for Massiverse.
He is literally a wizard.
He challenges me with notes. There are days where he is the least person, the last person I want to talk to because I know he's going to give me a note I don't like. But and he does it in a very Australian way, where he's just like, "This isn't working for me," and I'm like, "Ow!" It reminds me of my manager. I have my manager is always like, "This is sophomoric at best, Melissa. You can do better." And I'm like, "Hey."
Michael's the nicest person in the world too.
He's incredible, and I'm so lucky to have him. And he's truly the nicest, most hardworking man I've ever met. And I'm so lucky that he is my editor because he makes my stuff better, and he challenges me in a way that I absolutely need it. Because I think if I just had a bunch of people telling me that I was good, and not telling me what didn't work, then we'd have a lesser book for it. So
Yeah.
I appreciate that so much. And he designs every book, and Dead Lucky looks amazing because of him. So.
And he still acts so surprised whenever anyone addresses his successes.
Yeah.
Like he acts. I've only heard him like through podcasts and stuff, but he's always like, "Oh, I'm not doing all that much. It's just like," and then he lists off like 15 books that he's working on at the same
books.
time.
Only
Yeah,
editing
also-
like 6 books at Image, a book over here. Yeah, no, he's and
does
I
all the
love
graphics. Yeah.
I love him and Matt's success story, like where they've come from, and the fact that, you know, again, it's another thing through Kyle that
Yeah.
just kind of came together, like that, you know, just podcasting and talking Power Rangers, and the next thing you know,
Smart, because they're brilliant. They're so smart. They're just smart, creative guys, and
they're
I'm
nice,
so
they're
happy.
good, nice people, and that's what I love the most. I love
I
watching
mean,
good people succeed. Finally,
that is the secret. Don't be an asshole. Like, you can
For
be an
sure.
asshole if you're like a genius savant, but even that's only going to get you so far.
Yeah.
Be a nice person and be easy to work with, and more people are going to want to work with you, especially if you're good.
It just seems like this perfect mix of all of you very nice people came together into like a Power Rangers mixing pot, and now we all get to have the Massiverse somehow come out of it. Like
Yeah.
it's a miracle.
It's crazy to think if you go back to where everyone from Kyle to Ryan to Megan, Matt, Michael, you, Melissa, all these incredibly creative people, and the one thing that really tied everyone together was a stint on something Power Rangers related.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Let's throw Christina V in there too. Don't think I didn't catch her in that trailer.
Yeah, we're so lucky we got her to voice the trailer. Like, it was perfect.
And now, I mean,
yeah,
it's just to me, it blows me away that things you don't think, you know, doing a Twitch, you know, RPG show brought a lot of creative talent together that wouldn't necessarily happen otherwise.
I mean, that is how this industry works. You know, you find the people you like and you keep working with them if you can. And if you count yourself happy with the people that you work with, and you are truly the best person. Because I've worked with some serious jerks that I've had to,
oh yeah,
and like literally to the point where I just did not want to go to work. And to be able to say that I truly love everybody I'm working with now is a true blessing. And I'm very grateful and humbled and excited for the future.
You are literally living the dream.
Yeah,
I really am. I can't say that I'm not, because it's true. I hope I can carry that weight, and I'm going to do my damnedest to make sure I can.
We appreciate the ability to see what you're creating. I can tell you that.
Yep, absolutely. And just wait until the reviews for The Dead Lucky come in.
I hope
like
so,
once people get their hands on this book, it's gonna blow up.
I hope so. That would be nice. I don't expect everybody to love my book, but if even just some people like it, that will be enough for me.
So as we're going forward here towards the end of July, Melissa, where are people going to be able to see you next? See you in person?
Well, I will be at C2E2 August 4th for the Massiverse party, and then at C2E2. No, I don't think I have any scheduled signings or anything, but I might, just because the book will be out. Okay. So it will be fun to do something there. I don't think anybody's interested in this, and I have a podcast convention that I'm speaking at in Dallas at the end of August. Yes. Cool. That and again, I can't talk about why, but I will be there. And if I can make it to Power Morphicon, I'm planning on being there as well.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
At first, I didn't want to go to Power Morphicon because it felt very college kid that goes to high school, and everybody's like, "Why are you here?" But but now that I'm writing the books, and also they're doing a farewell to Ryan panel, I think.
Nice.
Oh,
I want to be there for that, because I've been there for a long time with him. I want to honor him. So
it's like a high school reunion. It's all good.
I have a lot of stuff, and I need to sell
it.
Do. And I feel like I'm never going to be around that many Power Ranger people again, and who might appreciate all the stuff that I have. So you might see me with a table full of stuff that people hopefully will want to buy. I have too many toys, guys. I don't know what to do with it. I just took too much stuff.
Awesome.
I'll have to check out that podcast convention, because that's I mean, I listen to podcasts every single day. I live in West Virginia, home of the McElroys. Like, I listen to everything. So excited to hear what you got going on there.
Very cool. It's what is it called? It's called Podcast Movement, I think.
I'm looking it up right now, actually. But yeah, no, it's
Podcast Movement 2022.
We'll send our Texas correspondent Mason down there to check it out.
Yeah,
you should. I mean, the panels look incredible. They look really cool. So
yeah,
cool,
no, definitely. And then
cool.
obviously Dead Lucky August 3rd.
Dead Lucky's out August 3rd.
August 3rd. Make sure you pick it up. Don't want to miss issue number 1.
Those are amazing.
Heck yeah! If you're a Power Rangers person, there's a Tom Whalen variant. Like, you can't not buy that. So,
I've been holding off on buying variants, but then when I saw the Tom Whalen variant, I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to just get all of them.
Yeah, I have a Spotify playlist for Dead Lucky as a writing playlist, and I put that as my cover because I just loved it so much. It's really very cool.
His unique art style is it's fantastic. I love it. But yeah, Melissa, thank you a ton for speaking with us for probably 40 minutes longer than I think we were originally planning on.
A little bit, and covering a few things I think I wasn't expecting to hear about. But
yes, thank you.
We are very lucky and very, very grateful that you took the time out of your day today.
Well,
Thank you.
Of course, thank you guys. It was a blast.